Okay, first question, man. You've played a lot of 2-4-5 against Ohio State, and I remember, I think after the Washington State game, you said you were encouraged by the ability to at least control their running game.
Yeah.
That wasn't the same way.
It was not the case for some.
But I'm just curious, were you ever tempted in that game to say maybe we need to go with 3 down linemen, or does that expose you to other things like in the passing game?
Yeah, there's definitely issues you create in the passing game going to that situation for us. You look back at the tape, a lot of execution. I mean, there's things I want to do better. There's things I can do to help them schematically, but we had a lot of things where it was not characteristic of what this defense has been, from a physicality, communication. You talk just alignment assignment football, we were all over the map in that game. And you play bad teams and you get exposed. When you play that way, you play great teams and it looks like that, and obviously not a fun result for anybody involved. And I think we had some guys kind of got shell-shocked early, and it took them a really long time to get out of it, because you talk about day one type of calls that we were doing some pretty interesting things with.
Did that contribute to guys, because it looked like guys couldn't get off blocks and couldn't make tackles once they did get off blocks. Did being out of their lane and gap contribute to that, or were those physical issues?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I mean, I think we put ourselves in bad positions. There's times they had, they do things really well, and they're covering you up a little bit better than most do. So many different things contribute to that situation. Like I said, there's things I have to correct, right, to help them, to put them in better position, give us better leverage, right? There's plenty of things that I'll put on my plate, and as a player, I think you got to own the technique, you got to own the communication and eyes. We had a lot of interesting, a little bit of guys seeing ghosts, right? Like, this happened and this happened. It's like, no, it's not what it was, right? So definitely things were moving a little fast for some guys, and we talked going into the game. You go into that environment on the road for the first time with a young team, you're going to learn a lot, and I think we learned a little bit, some things we liked, right, and other things that we didn't like about some guys, and it led to some good conversations on Sunday and Monday, and getting into the week of, all right, how do we correct this? How do we move forward? I think of when we've really battled Ohio State, you look at the experience that we had on the field. You had guys that look them in the eyes and just trust that what we're doing is right, and we just go execute and battle them. And we got wore down, and eventually, things started to go their way. But I think that happened early, where guys felt like they needed to do more, right? I need to do this. I need to do extra. I need to do a little bit out of structure to make a play. We really don't. And not only is it not going to work, it's not going to help the other 10 around you.
Did you like the music combination?
For sure. I mean, I don't think it's a focus issue. They do some things that's hard to simulate with their talent, right? With how they move at the offensive line and skill positions. So there's certain things where you try to get guys to understand there's a different level of ball that you're about to go up against. But from a focus, I mean, we had multiple guys I thought were like, this is the best week of practice you've had. Like, the focus was there. Guys were into it, obviously. The results were not. So we gotta get back grinding and get back to work. And I love this group, right? I still love the group. We learned a lot about them, and now we have to find ways to continue to help them out throughout the season.
You've had a lot of successful defenses over the years, but you also have a lot of good faces this year. Is a game like that, or the start of the season, kind of demonstrate it's not always easy to just plug in and play and expect to have the same level of success and execution?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see that all around. That's to me, one of the most fun things about college football is the faces constantly change, right? I mean, you can have really talented players, but if they don't communicate the same or don't learn the same, you have to make adjustments, right? What they can execute on Saturday is going to be different than the group before, and that's the fun part. That's the part I love about being a coordinator at this level. It's also the most challenging, right? So, like I said, we learned a lot about that group, of what they can handle, and now it's how do you make the next game play better, right? How do you snap back? How do you rally the troops a little bit and kind of move that one past and put them in position to go play fast and play confident, which we had been doing, right? And all of a sudden it didn't show up on that game. So trying to identify the issues that came up, how do you fix it, and let's roll, right? Illinois doesn't care. they're actually pretty damn excited. We got our ass kicked last week, so we got some things we got to fix because they're coming in here as a very confident group.
Speaking of Illinois, last year they did not throw the ball well. You guys were able to shut both of their passing game and the running game down. It looks like they're better at throwing the ball this year, and they have Chase Brown. What makes them more difficult to defend this year than they last?
I think the offense is very well designed. I think they create a number of issues. They know what they do well. They do it really well. They play fast and confident in that, and then they have a lot of things to try to slow you down. Right? It's a lot of eye discipline on the back end. For instance, their runs and RPOs, or their screens and their shots, like it all plays off of each other really well. So that's the number one thing I see from the offense is they do a good job of trying to force you to be disciplined, one, but two, like hesitant, and they take advantage of it. They do a great job. A lot of creative ways to create space on the outside for receivers and create one-on-ones for that quarterback and kind of identification on what he sees in coverage. And they're playing with a lot of confidence. It's definitely a different group, right? You can kind of see the confidence on tape, the physicality on tape, and to me it starts with them with the backs. They're a physical group. They run hard, and I think everybody around them feeds off of that.
With Spencer, I'm guessing it's going to be a little hard to get him going in the middle of a season, especially since he's still trying to learn a new position. But if he can, how do you think he helps your defense, or how do you kind of see him fitting in now that he's back?
Yeah, I think he's a very intelligent guy. He's got high football IQ, and he knows what we do well from multiple positions. So it's fun to get him back, get him kind of that work capacity back up from missing so much time. But I think he's got an opportunity to step in and continue to force our guys to grow, compete, right? Good competition for the group, and if he continues to develop as he was developing before he was injured, I think he's got an opportunity to push you on the field. Everything's exciting.
4 games into the season, how would you evaluate the type of pressure you're creating? Do you want to see more? Do you need more version in the sacks? Just kind of how would you evaluate the pressure on the quarterback so far?
What kind of coordinator is not going to want more pressure? I think it's been a little bit up and down, right? A little bit up and down. We've played some teams that were a little more conservative, right? Especially after we got ahead. So they weren't going to expose quarterbacks. Obviously, as we get into Big Ten play and tighter games, bigger moments, I think we're going to have a little bit more opportunities to create some pressures. Thought we've done a great job on third down up until this last week, and even we didn't get them into many third and long situations, third and pass situations. We handled a lot of those well. Just you need more, right? And we know with what we're seeing with Herbie, we got to do some things to make teams identify and find him because he's getting a lot of attention, which is great and well deserved by him. And excited to get into Big Ten play to get more opportunities to get after the quarterback. I think we're doing a better job on kind of that first, second down. We did a good job early in the season here of creating pressure just out of our base looks, right, and not having to create certain things. Once we get to third down, we'll see more as the season goes on. So, not disappointed with the amount of pressure. I always want more. Right? I always want guys to finish. You know, that to me is we had a number of opportunities in that game where we couldn't finish and get the quarterback on the ground. So those are always big ones.
You mentioned after the Washington State game, it's missed tackles and knockdown balls that happen in Ohio State. They do that to a lot of teams. But if you had to evaluate kind of the top items you want to tell your group, or you think they need to improve at, is missed tackles at the top, or what are the areas that you think you can help this group get to the higher level of success?
I'd say number one, communication, right? Just being clean on all communication and confident, right? I think we have some guys that are a little bit more quiet by nature, and it's understanding the urgency that you have to communicate with sometimes. And yeah, next I would say tackling. Like, it's been in space, it's been in the box, right? It showed itself in a couple different games where we got to execute better to get guys on the ground, or you're going to be playing a lot more plays, right? You're giving up a lot of first downs, whether you're missing tackles or just not being strong, right? Getting guys on the ground for 3 rather than 5 or 6. That happened a number of times where it's had the right call, guys in position, it's 5 instead of 2 or 3. You know, stuff like that. That's big in playing a game like that. It's a lot different playing 2nd and 8 or 7 or 8 or 2nd and 4 or 5. Like, they're in control in a lot of situations. And that's a huge difference when you play great teams. So definitely high on the list of things we need to correct as the season moves forward.
You mentioned that you learned a lot from players in a game like that. Not to single guys out, but what did you learn about your two starting inside linebackers who were both first-year starters? Maybe what they can do, what they can't do, what you maybe do that.
I think a little big eyes early, right? Either seeing too much, thinking too much, just not necessarily just trusting themselves in a lot of cases. Just trust that you're right? They played so well, they played so consistent early. So I think there were some things just from an eye discipline situation and just confidence in you saw what you needed to see. Now pull the trigger and go execute the rest of the play, whether that was in the run front or in pass coverage. Made a lot of plays, right? They make a lot of tackles still, but plenty of things that we can clean up. And love the approach we had today. I thought those guys were locked in and thought they bounced back really well for early on this week.
Nick, or Jim, Nick said that he really appreciated the approach, just straightforward, kind of man-to-man conversation versus a loss like that, kind of blowing off the lid. I mean, do you sense kind of an appreciation from the whole group of just having that approach even after a game like this?
I mean, it's a fine line, right? You're pissed, and you don't want that to happen again. How do you correct it? You can't go back and change the game. That happened, right? So I think there's a big part of me of owning what happened, right? And trying to identify what you got to fix. Me being mad on Sunday or me being mad on Monday doesn't change your result, right? Like, you got to trust the guys enough that it hurts them, right? They want it just as bad as we want it, and how do you actually fix it, right? How do you take the next step forward? So you're not glossing it over. You're not kicking it out of the way and just saying, well, I mean, that was a tough battle and we got beat. No, that is not even close to the execution and just everything, that when we talk about how we need to execute on game day, it wasn't close, but right, there's an element that you got to learn and you got to grow from, and to me, being angry about it only takes you so far, right? Some of that has to stick with you. You always have to have that as motivation, but to me, that's not number one. That can't be leading you. Otherwise, I think you got bigger issues down the road in your career. So I think a lot of guys appreciate it. I think it makes some guys uncomfortable because they're used to just getting yelled at, right, and just getting beat a little bit, and just the urgency, they don't feel it. But I think they understand how we feel about it, and the results, they said, not even close to what we expect around here. Let's go fix it, right? Let's hit the field every opportunity you get in the meeting room, get in the field, and let's go get it done. You got to put it on tape. All the other stuff doesn't matter.
What sticks out the most in your memory, your experiences with Brett?
I mean, to me, just was his energy coming in. It was different, just different on how he coached, how he approached players, the conversations he had with you was just different, right? Not saying better, worse, but that was kind of the number one thing going into my senior year. We knew we had a talented group, especially on defense, and you just kind of felt that energy, the confidence that he brought in. I think the whole defense kind of felt it, and the team felt it, and it was a lot of fun as a player just seeing his approach to the game, his approach to game planning a little bit, and you got a lot of confidence in you. Just go out there and be you and play fast and play aggressive, and I think that's the number one thing what I would say, being at that point in my career, what I felt when he kind of walked in the building.
I think y'all matched up last year over there, but this will be his first time coming back here. What kind of reception do you expect him to get? Is enough time passed that you think, or do you think it'll be any different?
I mean, I would anticipate him getting booed, just because that seems what fans do nowadays, whether right or wrong. I mean, obviously he had a great run here. Like, he did a lot of tremendous things. He took over the program in a good spot, and he left it in a good spot, I think. And as a head coach, I think you got to feel good about that. So, I mean, I love what he's done for what he did for the program when he was here. Not all fans feel that way, right? As always. So, who knows? I mean, it's like I said, you've seen Hall of Fame players get booed because they left for a year. So I wouldn't anticipate anything different here, just because people get emotional, and that's the way it rolls. I don't think he's going to have hard feelings either way, whatever response he gets. But I'm sure he's excited to come back here and play.
You said a few days ago you were one of the first players he met when he arrived. What are some of the biggest things you learned from him as a player that maybe helped you later on as a coach?
To me, like attention to detail, right? He was very detailed as far as what his system was, how we needed to play, he said the energy level that we needed to play and execute at. Just very passionate. I just remember he'd make a play, he'd be flying across the field, be the first one to congratulate you. Just said that energy that he kind of demanded his players to play with, I think was one of the bigger things that I took as a player at the time and just kind of as a coach. That's his personality, fiery personality. You make a mistake, he's going to be the first to say something. You make a big play, he's going to be the first one there to congratulate you. So he coached you hard, right? He demanded a lot out of you, but he praised you when things went well. So when the results were there.
Can you describe the buying the corners to kind of get in when teams are running the wide receiver screens? That seems to be a concept that's not only going in college football, but you guys have seen a lot this year with Wazoo, Ohio State, and out in Illinois this week. Just what kind of situation are they in? They're kind of out there by themselves trying to keep the team, beat a block, and make a tackle.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conflict for those guys because you think of coverage first defenders, right? So you're in coverage situations having to transition into run. And sort of team like Illinois, a team like Washington State, screen and go, right? Like all the fake screen and go stuff is so big, they get you to hesitate, right? Am I addressing this block because it's a screen, or am I covering this guy, right, because he's bluffing it and going? So to me, the offense is, they're getting more creative on the edge in order to put guys in conflict. It's that run-pass conflict that happens in the box a lot, right? It happens with your D-line getting read. It happens with your linebackers or safeties at times. Well, it just created that you might be 40 yards from the ball, but you kind of have that same run-pass conflict, right? So it's unique that way. It's difficult. It's the job they sign up for, but there's a lot of situations where you need to stay aggressive. You need to have levels to your defense to make things right at times, and that's where it gets harder when you get out of space. There's a lot less bodies that can work off of each other.
Were the spam Masubis just a player thing, or was that something the coaches got to try too?
Oh, that was all over. I've had them before. Nick is obviously very proud of his culture, his family, all that stuff. So it didn't work. So we might have to try it again though. Get it and try to get it to work next time. But obviously very appreciative of things like that. It meant a lot to him.
Thank you.
I will never do that shit.